I don't feel like I should sit like this. I feel like that's weird. Maybe I sit like this. Yeah, this is nice. I don't want to see my feet. I'm really intrigued what side of the bed you guys think I sleep on. Like that. Ignore the fact that Lulu's there. Maybe that's a bit of a giveaway. But I'm really intrigued about which side of the bed, because I just think it says a lot about your character, which side of the bed you sleep on. It says a lot about your relationship, which side of the bed you sleep on. I think we can all guess which side of the bed I sleep on, but let's ignore that. Anyway, hello and welcome to this week's episode of the podcast. My name is Bella and we're here for another week, which is very exciting because it's been a big old week. And I can't lie, I've been a little bit overwhelmed at moments. And this week particularly has just felt like one of those weeks where there's just been a lot going on. And it's really felt like there's been a lot going on. You know, when you leave work and you just think, my brain feels tired. I used to do this thing when I was at school, which is quite toxic actually, now I come to think of it. I didn't think I'd worked hard unless I physically couldn't do any more work, unless my brain had this fog around it, because I didn't know how to quantify. I wasn't able to give myself the reassurance that me doing enough was enough. I had to have some type of physical feeling to know that I'd done enough, because I wasn't able to give it to myself, and I didn't know boundaries, and I was a massive overthinker and worrier. You know, not a lot's changed, but I used to carry on working so hard and pushing myself so much, and it just got to the point where I just pushed myself into burnout. And that's what we're trying to avoid this time, because burnout, it's hard to get over. And it's hard then because once you're in the burnout mode, sorry, we've gone straight into it a little bit today. We will come back to the topic, the life intro, because so much has happened. But pushing yourself into burnout is dangerous because you think you do a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. But then you take yourself right down to rock bottom, which means that it takes so much longer to build yourself up. Imagine you're like diving, okay? And if you were just swimming with a scuba dive, like if you were swimming with a snorkel, okay, this is what burnout is like. This is my perfect example. If you're watching this on YouTube, you're going to have a better idea of what I mean. But, you know, if you're on Spotify, use your imagination. If you're scuba diving with a snorkel, okay, and this is avoiding burnout, you're taking a breath, you're going down, and you're coming back up when you need it. And you come back up when you need it, and you're working it out, and you're managing to stay afloat, and you're bobbing along, and everything's going good, and you could go on forever, okay? Because some days are going to be a little bit more stressed, and other days you're just going to swim at the top because you want to see the scenery, you want to see the beautiful, I was going to say view, but it's just the horizon. But, you know, you want to see the snorkeling. Scuba diving is when you end up burning yourself out because you swim, and you just keep going a little bit further, all the way down to the bottom, a little bit further, a little bit further, a little bit further, and then all of a sudden you are running out of air and you urgently need to get to the top, and you don't have time. You don't have time to get to the top because you're going to run out of air before you get there, and it just means that you're going to feel so exhausted. And to recover, it's going to take you so much longer to get to the top because you don't realise how far down you've gone, and you don't realise how much pressure you have put on yourself. It's going to take you so much longer to unwind from that pressure. That metaphor is actually excellent. I'm not going to lie, it was a bit of a off the cuff situation. But it's exactly right. It's like the pressure that you put yourself under, it takes so long for that to leave your body and for you to be able to process that and for you to be able to exist with that pressure. It takes a long time to decompress. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. It takes a long time to decompress after you've put yourself under such periods of high stress, which is why burnout is so dangerous, and which is why I'm very aware what I've done to myself this week. Bad. Shouldn't have done it. But let's get into the life update because it's really been such a beautiful week. And if you follow me on Instagram, then you'll know all the little bits I've been up to. But last time we spoke, I was on the balcony in Florence. Florence, beautiful place. Beautiful. I really enjoyed it. As I said, I hadn't been there since I was 18, and it was nice going back. It was different to how I remembered it, but it was really lovely going back. It was like, I think I've kind of merged a lot of that trip in my head. And so it was nice to go back and like really remember what it was like. And then we went to the wedding. What a wedding. It has set the standard of weddings so high. I'm scared I've got glass in my eye. Oh my God, what if I have? Context, I just tried to hoover and the hoover has blue flames coming out of it. Blue flames. Because I think something's got caught in the filter, and when it's going around, it's getting hotter and hotter and hotter, and it's causing some flame because the flame isn't there when I turn it off. So it's not on fire, it's something in there, and you can hear a rattling. So that's news to break to my landlord tomorrow. But it is a shocking Hoover, so I feel like that's okay. I feel like that's expected at this point. But anyway, the wedding. It was in Tuscany, in the most beautiful setting. I can like it. You know when you're just looking out and it just feels like a dream. We were just looking out and there was like vineyards and other farms and just like the most beautiful setting you could ever have imagined. I was a bridesmaid and it was just really like, I love weddings. I love a wedding. I love a wedding, especially a wedding where like you don't have to give a speech. I love a wedding where I'm not giving a speech. To be honest, like there's only a few situations where I'll be in that wedding, and I will have to give a speech. But honestly, it gave me such bad wedding fever in the terms of like, I don't actually want to get married, but I want the party. I'd really like to plan a big party. I think that sounds really fun. I think the idea of planning it is more exciting than actually planning it. I think when I'm in it, I'll be so stressed and I'll be so overwhelmed and I'll just be decision fatigue, because I've noticed I get that quite badly, decision fatigue, which is kind of what it says on the tin. It's where you get tired from making decisions and you just can't make any more decisions anymore. I feel like quite a lot. And so don't know how I'll find it, but it's made me start imagining it a lot. And honestly, I've got so many ideas. I just need to work out how I'm going to finance it, because to be honest, weddings are a lot more expensive than I thought, because you're paying for like 40, 50 people's holiday. Of course, it's going to cost so much money. And so I need to work out how that's going to be. But anyway, the wedding itself, I think I've said that 3 times and got distracted 3 times. And so I am sorry. It was in this old kind of like abbey, like beautiful abbey. And it's not, what's the right word? I don't mean run down, because it's not run down. It's like abbey ruins. Maybe that's the right way to say it. Like it didn't have a roof and so you could see the sky. It was so beautiful. And then we went back and we had a reception drinks, we had cocktail hour, and then we had the dinner, and Lou gave his speech and we all dancing. Like honestly, I love a wedding. If anyone's getting married, please invite me. I'll be a great guest. I will be an excellent guest. I'll be a helpful bridesmaid. I will greet people when they need to be greeted. The only slightly embarrassing thing is I wrote in the guest book quite late on in the night, and I am slightly terrified about the amount of gush that I gave in the wedding book. I think I might have been a bit over the top, but I also think I meant all of it. And so, no one's ever going to read it and think that's a bit more. Maybe they might. Oh well, just going to have to run with it now, aren't we? We're just going to have to deal with that. Anyway, wedding happened, beautiful. The day after, we had to be out by 10. Awful. Genuinely awful. Thought I was going to die. Thought I was actually going to die, because the party didn't end for me till quite late. And I was not well the next day. It's weird how alcohol does that to your body, isn't it? Like, you are really just toxicing? What's the right word? You are really just poisoning your body. Toxining, that's really problem. That's like words. Anyway, it was one of the worst hangovers I've had in quite a while. It was quite awful. And then we had to go to Pisa. And I tell you not, on that train to Pisa, why I was questioning, why did I book another holiday? Why did I feel need to extend a trip? Why is just something never enough for me? Why is something never enough? Why do I just have to make it that bit more extra? I always have to add on something more. But anyway, got to Pisa, had the most lovely time, and realised I was being so bratty about it because I was hungover, and we just wandered around and we ate nice food and we drank nice wine, and it was delicious. Apart from on the last night, it was quite rainy, the weather, I can't lie. Like mid-October, Italy. Well, of course, it's the wine region, so of course it's going to rain. Well, how do we think the vines grow? But we got conned and we went to this restaurant. It looked lovely and it just was awful. And the house wine was awful and it was all awful, but it was quite funny. There was a really nice ice cream bar opposite and it was next to our house. And at that point, we were just ready to go home because we had the half marathon on the Sunday. That is not something you are meant to rock up to, okay? It's not something you are meant to rock up to. You are meant to train for that. And I knew at one point when the guy was running past and he was like, your body knows what you're doing. It's just your head. Your body knows. You've trained for this. You're ready. And I was like, I haven't trained for this. Not one part of my body is trained for this. I've gone on 3 practice runs, but I knew inside I'd done it before, and so I was like, this is doable, this is fine. But it was so much fun. And as half marathons go, I think it's quite a good one to get a PB at because it's very flat, very flat. It's a bit boring when you're running on the motorway, can't lie. That is a bit dull. That's not very interesting. And you run like 7 kilometers around Old Trafford. You do like a weird, like little spider thing, and I don't know, not spider, snake trail. I don't know. I really like the London Landmarks half marathon, and I think that'll be my next one. I think I'm going to do it in March. I'm very, very tempted because it's such a fun one to run and you finish it in such a good place. And I just remember feeling very emotional, and I didn't feel that emotional this time. So I think that's the next one. But, it is on the cards, a full marathon. I'm starting to think maybe that's my next thing. I just don't want to train for it. I feel like that'll take so long. And it's the thought of having to do a long run every single weekend. I quite like the fact with this half marathon, I could train. I didn't, but I could have. But I didn't have to. Whereas marathon, I'm not turning up to that without training. That's a full-blown training situation. But I'd only really want to do the London marathon. I'd want to do what? Oh no, that's a lie. I do want abroad. But I feel like to travel for a marathon, that feels very athletic. That feels very serious sporting. But also on the half marathon, I met one of you guys and it was so lovely because afterwards I was so like dying after the week of traveling and getting back and the half marathon and just been like, go, go, go. And then I met one of you and it was so lovely. Just like chat and see someone who listens to the podcast and hear about your life, and it feels more like a real thing. Like, I know people listen, but I don't always know people listen, But anyway, on to the content part of this week's podcast episode. And this week we're talking about feeling a little bit lost, because I feel like that's been a thing that's been coming up for me a lot recently. So on to the content part of this week's podcast episode. I've really hurt my knee. Oh my God, there was something else I forgot to tell you about. I fell over at the start of the half marathon. I don't know if you can see my knee. That's literally pathetic. There's actually nothing there. So you can't see my awful injury. But a guy I'm going to reenact it for you. So I'm running, okay? We're late to the half marathon, really late. I'm running like this, trying to get ahead. Not to get in front of people, that makes me sound like a dick. Trying to get ahead because our start time, because I don't know why I'm standing up still. I put us in a group that was 2 below the elite group, okay? 2 below the elite group. Not a trained runner, not a trained athlete. Anyway, just thought I could do it. So we turn up, we're late, we've been waiting in the wrong area. It's fine, it is what it is. Anyway, I'm running to get to the front. Running. A guy stretches out and does that stretch. It's comedic timing. And I've told you this before, but I need to reenact it, and I just face planted. But anyway, we're okay, we've recovered. My knee is quite sore, but we'll get over it. Anyway, let me get my iPad up and my notes. I should have done this before, but I haven't. Because classic me, we're slightly underprepared. It's so funny. This is my notes. 3 bullet points of things I think I should talk about. But the topic of this week's episode is on feeling lost, because I don't know if I'm having a quarter life crisis, guys. Not in a dramatic way. I think I am. I think I'm having a quarter life crisis. I wish I was one of those people that felt like they had such direction and knew what they were doing. Like, I'm so jealous of those people who've always known what they wanted to do, because I love doing this. I love doing the podcast and stuff. And then half of me is like, well, shouldn't it have got into something now? If it was ever going to be anything, surely it'd be bigger. But maybe I'm like, oh, this is big enough. And it's just this internal cycle of comparing yourself to other creators and thinking that like what you've done isn't good enough, and just really pitting yourself against everyone else. And then realizing at the same time that you can't do everything for success. You have to do things because you enjoy it. And if you start putting pressure on yourself to just do it to be successful, then it takes the joy out of it. And that's not why you started in the first place. That's not why I started You've Got Mail. And I think it's this feeling of like actually being in a career now and being out of university. And I think I've now been at my current job for a year. I had my 1 year anniversary a month ago. So a year and a month. And it's just, I think it's when you're out of this constant learning cycle, learning, I mean, in like educationally, it can really feel like you've hit a bit of a plateau, because you're used to this constant striving forward. And it's not that I'm not learning my job. That's not what I mean. I mean it purely in an educational sense of where there's actual time points where you can mark your progress against. I feel like it's so much more structured, your learning process, that you really feel like you're moving in a certain direction. And I've had that for so long. I've had that for all of my life. And if I didn't have that, I had something else that I was kind of learning on. Like I was doing my internship and now I was doing my master's and then I started here. And it's not that you stop learning, but you kind of learn the steps. And I think it's this tricky thing of feeling like you're in this part of your life where there's almost not an expectation, but people are on their way in careers that they like, and people are on their way in jobs that they want to do, and people are working out where they want to go. And it's kind of like this idea that you're meant to have it all kind of sorted, not sorted, but at least exploring. And the thing is, I just sometimes feel quite lost with it all. Just like I'm enjoying what I'm doing now, and I'm happy in my life right now when I look at it like this. I'm like, you know what? I'm very content right now. I like my job. I like my house life. I like my friends and my family, and I'm very, very content. But then I'm like, but you should be doing more. You should be doing more. You should be doing bigger things. You should be doing better things. You should be pushing the podcast further. You should be putting 110,000%. And it's like something in my brain makes enough never enough. It makes trying my hardest not trying my hardest. It makes me needing to burn myself out in order to give myself that satisfaction that what I'm doing is enough. And I just wish it was always enough anyway. I wish I was able... I'm just going to turn this light on here because I feel like it will make me brighter. I wish I was able to be content and feel like I was growing in the right direction without putting so much pressure on myself. And I just don't know where this pressure comes from. I don't know where this pressure and need to succeed and need to kind of grow was established. But it was established somewhere along the line. And the listeners who are like the OG listeners will know. It's been there for a while. And I just wonder, at what point am I going to think, give yourself that time to breathe? Because the thing that I also think is so important is the needing to be bored. Because I feel like I've slightly, not lost who I've become, but since I've moved to Manchester, I've gained a weirder, stronger sense of identity. But at the flip side, I've also stopped doing a lot of things that I really liked doing and haven't yet found the alternative to that while I'm here. And it's little things like, on Friday, I'm going to the theatre. I haven't been to that in ages. I've stopped really reading before bed. I've stopped journaling as much. I've stopped doing the little things that kind of brought me close to myself. And I think that is emphasizing that feeling of feeling a little bit lost, of feeling slightly unsure of the direction that I want to take my life in. And I think it's, again, this idea that you have to have it all figured out. My brain yo-yos. It says you need to have it all figured out. You need to have nothing figured out. You're meant to try new things. You should stick with what you know. You should go back into education. You should pick your career. Like all of these things, it's just this constant. And I think this is one of the hardest things and one of the best things about growing up in the generation that we're growing up, is there are so many opportunities. But there's also so many opportunities. And for an overthinker, that can be quite a lot of things to grasp your head around. And I'm not complaining. There are a lot of opportunities. I know that is amazing. But what I am saying is, it can be hard not to compare yourself to everyone around you and think that the grass is greener for literally every single option surrounding you. But I think I've noticed it this week that I've kind of been going through the motions, but not feeling fully sure in myself, feeling a little bit anxious, feeling quite just like a little bit off. Not entirely, but just in myself, just like a little bit unsure of how to spend my time. And I notice it when I start over planning and I start thinking that I need to do everything and that I need to have everything sorted, that I need to plan this ideal life. And I start getting really intensely planning. And I forget the needing to be bored, the need to have downtime, the need to have moments where you are just chilling, where you're resting, but resting not watching TV, resting in my room right here with my iPad and just chilling out. I forget the importance of that. And I think this is the thing where we have so many forms of entertainment and so many forms of spending our time and surrounding ourselves with like great people, which is so important. Like, it's so important to be social, but sometimes I need to remember, like, to replenish my social battery. And this is personal. This is dependent on whether you are an, what's the right word? Extroverted or introverted person. Like, how much your social battery needs and whether that fills you up or kind of like wipes you out, what you need to do. And although I am extroverted, I feel like I'm an introverted extrovert. I love being around people. It's so much fun. But then afterwards, I'm like, oh, I need a little moment just to myself, just to have a little, regroup. I need to regroup. And I don't feel like I've had that regroup in quite a while. And I think this is one of the things that people don't really talk about when you move in with people, especially moving in. Like, me and my boyfriend have moved in with each other. And although it's going great, like, no issues there, it's having that constant person there, which is lovely. But it's also making sure that you make time for yourself in that relationship that is just a you time. Not you and anyone else, just you. Because it's when you're bored that you find out things about yourself. You explore things about yourself. You learn about things about yourself. You let your mind wander. And I think it's so important to let your mind wander. Wonder? I don't know the right way to say it, but it's in those moments where your brain can kind of just explore. It's like, I used to love going to bed early because I'd be like, oh my God, I can just think. I can just let my mind go and see where it goes and see where it takes me. And like, I love falling asleep that way because it means my dreams are always like really interesting. Because like, it's that slow fall into sleep where your brain just starts to explore itself. And this is the danger of that burnout, of what I was saying before, is that when you are burning yourself out and when you are pushing yourself under, you go straight to sleep like that. You lose that space in between things. The way is like everything becomes very squished up like sardines. All of your thoughts are very close together because everything's got more higher pressure on it. And it's when you take a moment to breathe that all of a sudden things start to flow and there's more continuity between it all. And it's easier to form trail of thoughts and it's easier to form sentences and it's easier to be creative. And it's like this vicious cycle of you burn yourself out and then you try and create and you try and do other things. But the reality is you just need to rest. And I think this feeling of lost that I've had recently and this feeling of uncertainty about where I'm going and what I'm doing, I just need to rest for a moment. Because usually that feeling of like not sitting completely comfortable stems from me being a little bit tired and a little bit overwhelmed and just a little bit ready for a break. So this weekend I have zero plans apart from theatre on Friday and meeting a friend for coffee on Sunday. And I'm really excited about that. Like, me and Louis will probably go out for lunch on Saturday. Lovely. I'm not going out drinking this weekend. We're having a hiatus from that because I feel like the end of summer, it's time for a small little detox. We're not drinking. I'm just not getting drunk, Like, there was leaving drinks today. Just had a beer. Just keeping it steady pace because I don't think I need a hangover right now. I don't think that's what I need. But anyway, I did not use my notes in the slightest, and I definitely was mental, but I spoke about everything that I thought I was going to speak about, which was mainly this idea that you have time running out and putting this pressure on yourself is going to make you feel more lost and more burnt out because you're going to be trying to grasp at straws of where you think you want your life to go. You're going to be trying to grasp at the things around you, thinking that you need to fill your life with all these things. It's going to make you feel better. What's going to make me feel better? It's like that whirlwind, in Inside Out, where like anxiety is like, that's what you're going to feel like. You're going to be trying to grasp at things that makes you feel better. But when you're feeling lost and a little bit uncertain, you need to take a breather. You need to let things slow. You need to let yourself breathe for a moment because things have been, like, guns have been firing. All cylinders have been going. Okay, it's been stressful. You need to let your brain have a little moment to regroup. And that's why I've got no plans this weekend. And that's why I have no plans next weekend. And that's why I'm just having a little break. Not really, but a little bit. But anyway, on to the question part of this week's podcast. How to find a good balance between uni and personal when doing a master's. First off, the master's was the hardest thing I've ever done. Educationally, it's like nothing else. It's so intensive. The standard is so high because I feel like you've got such Like, the people that you're going to meet are going to be amazing, and they're going to become some of your best friends, and you're going to have an amazing time there, and you're going to learn so much. But it's really stressful and it's really hard. So first off, hats off you for doing the masters. Secondly, I think the biggest I didn't have a balance. And there's two ways of looking at this. I kind of had the mindset of, this is only a year and it's going to be rough for a year, but I'm going to get through it, and it's not going to be forever. And sometimes you just have to have those grind moments, but you need to make sure that you find pockets of joy and ways to recuperate, because otherwise you're going to put yourself under so much pressure that you're going to burn yourself out and you're not going to be able to complete it. So I think knowing when you need to have those grind periods is important, but recognizing within them how you can make yourself have pockets of breathing space. Find that thing that you can do each day that is your moment to breathe. Right now, it's me in the gym and going to bed early. Such boring things, such things that are part of like a staple routine. But I think when I was doing my masters, one thing I didn't like going to sleep, because it meant, like, this sounds so dramatic, but it meant the next day was starting and it was going to be a whole new level of stress. And so I would like procrastinate. It's like the revenge procrastination. I'd just be on my phone, I'd scroll and I'd scroll and I'd scroll and I'd scroll, and I'd end up feeling so much worse. So first off, make sure that you're prioritizing things that are actually going to make your headspace feel better, like sleep and exercise and being outside and moving your body. And also try and enjoy the freedom that Masters has to offer. You know, it's rare again that you're going to be able to be like free at 2 p.m. on a Thursday. Like, go to a yoga class, do Pilates, go for a walk, meet your friends. Like, really use this as a moment where you're meant to enjoy learning. And I know it's easier said than done, but I wish I'd taken the pressure off myself a little bit, and I wish I'd just really enjoyed it. And I think that's how you find a good balance between your personal and doing the masters, is making sure that you put those boundaries in place for you to have those moments of when you're going to feel recuperated. And I also kind of had rules of when I would do work. Like, Saturday was a no working day. I just relaxed on a Saturday. There was no studying on a Saturday. And I found a job that fitted around my masters. I worked for Koru Kids. I was a nanny, and that was really helpful. And I just found other jobs, like odd jobs that fitted in. And I spent all my savings, and it was just one of those grind moments. But I think, yeah, working out a routine that actually makes you rest is important. And don't do work every day, because I promise you, your brain is better when it's had a moment to breathe. How to handle imposter syndrome with your job. Do you know what? It just takes time. And realizing that everyone feels it, but giving yourself the compassion and the space to let yourself overcome it. I think one of our biggest faults is that we think we have to overcome everything all at once. We think we have to be absolutely perfect. We think we have to be totally confident and know what we're doing. And I still get massive imposter syndrome at my job, and I've been there a year and a month, you know? It's all right to feel imposter syndrome. Sometimes I feel like we hate on worrying, but worrying means that we care. I heard Adele say that in her Desert Island Discs, and she was like, yeah, I get really bad stage fright, but it means I care. I was like, yeah, I get imposter syndrome because I really care about what people think, and I really care about the work that I'm producing, and I want it to be to a high standard. And that's, I think, my biggest tip is handling imposter syndrome, is trying to rephrase it as like, I'm doing this because I care, but also it's a new job, or it's your current job. But like, give yourself a moment to overcome it. And then also sometimes you have to have the harsh reality checks of, it's not that deep. It's not that deep. It's just not that deep. And you need to have your personal work that you can have those reality checks with it, because it's important. It's important to put things in perspective. It's important to zoom out, because when you zoom out and you realize what you're actually doing, it becomes so much more manageable. What is it that keeps you going, and how do you keep on going? I think the thing that keeps me going is the potential of like what the future could hold. Like, I don't know what this is going to turn into. I don't know what You've Got Mail is going to turn into. I don't know what my future career is going to be like. I don't know. I don't have a plan. I don't know where I want to go. I have these goals that I have that feel like lofty ambitions at this point. They feel pretty high-fetched, but they're there. And I think it's the thing that keeps me going is the story that could weave itself from these goals that I have. It's the what my life could turn into. Like, I'm very content in my life, and it's not like pushing all of what I currently have away, but it's like the excitement of what could be. And I think you have to make yourself excited for your future. You have to invest in your future in a way that makes you excited for it. You have to make sure you find a job that you enjoy. You surround yourself with people that make you happy. You create a life for yourself that you like, that you find yourself hobbies. Like, you have to take time investing in your life. It's not just going to happen. For some people it might. For the majority it's not. Like, it's not just going to work out all okay. Well, no, that sounds dramatic. What I mean is, like, it's not just going to happen all at once. You have to put time into it. But I promise you, if you invest in yourself, you're going to reap such great rewards. How do I learn to love spending time with myself? I always get jealous seeing others and feel lonely. You have to be bored by yourself and let yourself potter. I'm a big fan of pottering. I feel like pottering is underrated. Being in my room with my show on, just doing a little bit of tidying, being like, it's almost weirdly meditative. Because I have an ADHD, I don't find sitting still that meditative. Meditative sounds weird. But doing something that doesn't require active thought, that is just the movement of doing something and pottering around and sorting out a drawer and decluttering and doing all of these things, that was how I first started being on my own, just really enjoying my own company, because I was like, this is so calming. This is so relaxing. And some of you are going to listen to this and think, Jesus Christ, Bella, that is so boring. Try a pottering day when you're feeling overwhelmed, because I swear it'll sort you out. And I think you learn to love spending time with yourself once you realise that you can do whatever you want when you're on your own. There's no one else to argue with. You can eat the food you want to eat. You can watch the TV you want to watch. You can just do you, which means that it's going to be great, because you're going to be able to do you get to be so selfish. It's like tonight, I've just done the podcast all night. I went for drinks with my friends. I've cooked a dinner that I really want to cook. Like, I've had a great evening, and I'm going to watch Desperate Housewives and then go to bed in an hour, because these are all things that I want to do. And I think that's important. Okay. Final question. Tips for creating your own podcast. Just start. It sounds boring, but just start. Like, I didn't have a plan of what I create. I don't plan the episodes beforehand. I don't have a schedule. I don't do anything. I just turn up and chat, and that works for me. And it might work for you too. Sometimes I think, again, we put too much pressure on ourselves to make these absolutely perfect end products, because we're scared of failing, and we're scared of things not working out, and we're scared of trying something new. But you just have to do it and see what happens. Record the TikTok video, record the podcast, do the thing that scares you and enjoy being bad at it and enjoy the journey of becoming good at it. I look at my first content that I produced, it makes me feel sick. It's repulsive. I hate it, because I've grown so much since then, and the way that I produce content has changed so much since then, and it's nice to see that growth. And so I think my biggest tip is just get going. Get going, because you're going to learn so much more by doing it than by thinking about doing it. Find your idea, think about what you want to chat about, and then just start chatting about it. And bear in mind, for the first year, no one listened. Okay? For the first year, my mum and my boyfriend were the only two listeners. It's taken 3.5 years for anyone to even listen to the podcast. And so you really have to create something that's in alignment with what you want to produce. And I think so much about content creation now is everyone's focused on the end product, but the people who have made it big never got into it to make it big usually. I'm not saying all the time, but quite a lot of these people got big before it was normal to get big off Instagram and like TikTok and things like that. And so they just did it for the joy of creating. And I think that's sometimes what we're all missing, is that like just joy of creating, of composing something that you really like. I think that'd be also my biggest tip. Make something that you really like. But anyway, I've got to go, because new things I've done this week, nothing. I've literally been at work all week, although we've nearly finished the Monsters TV series on Netflix. A lot darker than I realised it was going to be. I haven't finished it yet, so I'll report back on that in a couple of days. I haven't read anything. I haven't journaled. I listened to Mozart this morning, because I just thought I've never listened to Mozart before, so maybe I'll give that a go. Yeah. I think I need to give it a bit longer. I don't think I can write him off, because it's Mozart. But so far, some of them are really good. Some of them I'm just like, not for me. But I've also got really into Desert Island Discs. Do you know what one of my big goals is? To be a presenter on Desert Island Discs. I think I'd thrive in that environment. I think I'd be great at that. I'd really enjoy that job. And so, if you need a new presenter, you know who's waiting in the wings. But that would be my recommendation for what you should listen to this week. Anyway, I love you and I hope you have a good week, and I'll speak to you again next week. Make sure you follow me on Instagram and on TikTok, people, at You've Got Mail_pod. But I've got a slight nervous feeling that my potato is burning, and so I love you, but I need to go.